This is the College Hockey News Insiders Podcast.
Wilmer behind the back, spinorama, he scores! What a goal by Jeremy Wilmer!
Discussion.
Into the net with a shot, he scores! Owen Mike goes 4-2, Western Michigan.
Opinion.
Back into the near circle, fires, he scores! Hysteria here in Hockey Valley as Penn State upsets number 2 Minnesota.
Special guests and your listener questions.
The icing is waved and it's over! Western Michigan has won it. The Broncos are the Frozen Four champions of 2025.
Taking you through the world of college hockey, here are your hosts, Adam Roden and Mike McMahon.
All right, here we are. It's into December. We go, and all systems go as far as the national picture starting to take shape. And by the way, the Patriots now, we always have to come back to that because they've won friggin' 10 games in a row now. This is getting out of hand. I think someone's got to put a stop to this. I hope it's in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, it could be. I'll be honest with you. I'm getting a little nervous about the fact that they have played the easiest schedule in the league.
Yeah,
but I think if they can stay out of Denver, if they can stay out of Denver, like if they get the 1 seed and they can stay out of Denver, then I think they're okay. Denver at home is a lot different than Denver on the road.
Yes, well, I don't really care who beats them right now. So let's please.
You're just rooting for anybody.
For the love of God, like let the I don't even know who's the most harmless team out there for the Chargers. Let them go to the Super Bowl. I don't care.
I'll be nice. I was going to say who's a team that nobody cares about?
Yes,
the Chargers.
Well, unfortunately, that's the case. But there's not even enough to hate there, especially since the Jets actually beat them twice in the playoffs in the 2000s. So I mean, I have no reason to hate them. My list of teams in all sports that I hate grows like daily because I'm so bitter that none of my teams have won anything in 40-something years that I never used to hate anybody, I grew up in New York and there's always 2 teams of everything, and I always liked like all the teams somewhat, except the Yankees. But now I just hate them all because I don't want the Knicks to be good. I don't want the Giants to be good, and they're not right now, but I don't want the Rangers to be good. So I hate them all, but my list is really, it grows all the time. So I'm down to like 10 benign teams in all sports, I think. It's slim pickings. But I am, if I have to say, rooting for Dartmouth here, only because, my MO in almost all sports is to just root for the little guy, and especially the ones who haven't made the NCAA tournament in 46 years. So Dartmouth, 8-0, and finally gets to be our team of the week. So it's been a few weeks coming. They haven't still, let's be honest, played that great a schedule yet. Not good at all, but some good teams in there. And then Merrimack this past weekend had been playing, up and down, but decent. And they annihilated Vermont. So you got to see them. They scored 7 goals Friday against Vermont, but then only the 1-0 win against Merrimack. So what did you take out of that?
I watched both of them because I watched the Vermont game Friday night before I went up there on Saturday. It is interesting. Like, they won those 2 games in 2 completely different ways, clearly. They scored 7 goals on Friday, just the 1 on Saturday. But, that is kind of the mark of a good team, I think, too, that even in a game like, I don't think they played their best hockey game on Saturday. I think they would admit that there were some ups and downs to it. They only put 1 goal. We only put 1 goal on the board. They did shut Merrimack out. Emmett Croto was great in that game. He's been great all year, really. 970 save percentage in 4 games. Like, come on. But no, I thought that they were good at getting traffic to the net. They were good. They were very good at just making things difficult, both in terms of breaking the puck out. I thought they got on Merrimack and Vermont pretty quickly. again, it's kind of an overused term. I hate to use it again, but structure. Like, they were just very structured, and they didn't deviate from it. And I think they stick to their plan very well, kind of like how Quinnipiac has done it for a number of years, which shouldn't really surprise anyone. So that's what they kind of reminded me of. I mean, it was a little bit different. They've got some guys that can score. Don't get me wrong. CJ Foley, by the way, is unbelievable.
Yeah, we should definitely talk about him.
Oh, he was the best player on the ice on Saturday by like a wide margin. He's terrific, and he's not the only one. Like, Stavrov scored 7 goals in 8 games. They're, from an analytics standpoint, like, there's some signs that, hey, they're gonna regress here a little bit, right, just because they're shooting 15% and they've got a .950 save percentage. But you know what? They're 8-0. Like, even if they regress a little bit, like, what's the next 8 games look like? 6-2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was going to get to that because, as we've talked about before, they were 5-0 last year and then did tail off. Now, they were shaky the middle of the year. They bounced back. They had a big winning streak towards the end of the year. I think they won 6 in a row going into the playoffs and in the postseason, and made it to the ECAC semis. They lost to Clarkson 4-1, and so you know, but last year's team was quite a bit different. You know, they scored a lot more and they lit up a lot more, and so, you know, CJ Foley last year, I mean, he had a 55 chip rating. You know, as a sophomore defenseman, 30 points last season, so he's kind of just picking up where he left off in that regard. But they had guys like Sean Chisholm, who scored 15 goals, and Luke Hames, who decided to leave early. Cooper Flinton, another junior who decided to leave early at almost a point per game. Croteau was the goalie last year. Both guys were there last year, but not nearly as good numbers. So, you know, obviously it's always a combination of factors when you change some guys, but the defense is so much better this year. Is it the goaltending that improved that much? The team defense improved that much, and it's probably both. But those goalies, will they keep splitting them even 50-50? You know, I think that's a big question right now.
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, I was just looking at it too. You're right. They finished really strong last year. So if you combine how they finished last year to this year, they're 14-1 in their last 15 games. Yeah. Going back to last January, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But the only loss they have in their last 15 games was last year.
Yeah, that semifinal, the Clarkson.
In the semifinals to Clarkson. Yeah. That's it.
Exactly.
That's their only loss since February 21st of last year. So they're rolling right now. And I agree with you with the goalies. Like, I was, one of my takeaways out of the weekend was it's hard to seed either one of them right now because both of them are playing so well. I was talking to Josh Sagan, our colleague, on Saturday. He had mentioned that, you know, the talk was they wanted to go with one. They didn't want to rotate throughout the course of the year. They wanted one guy to win the job. But, I mean, you look at it right now, both guys are playing so well. I don't know how you sit either of these guys.
I don't know, but Croteau has 970 compared to 921. It's kind of crazy. He has a 6th-round draft pick of Montreal. Again, it wasn't bad last year at all, but this year's off the charts. But the defense also, I mean, you know, Foley, I mean, is a legit Hobie candidate back there on defense. Eric Charpentier is another junior. They don't have guys, again, like their scoring is down, even despite that 7 goals against Vermont. They do have a freshman, Nathan Moran, who is from Quebec, and he has 7 points in 8 games, but they don't have the kind of scoring depth they had last year, but they are balancing it out with defense. I mean, we know Reed Cashman has certainly proven himself to be a good coach. They've improved every year just about since he's been the head coach. This is his 5th year now. Former player at Quinnipiac, spent time in the NHL as an assistant, and was definitely a hot commodity. You know, there's some people think, oh, maybe he's the next Quinnipiac coach. I think they got a few more years to worry about that. But it's always been a school that has sort of an opportunity. You know, they're not, I don't know, how do you describe it? This almost sounds like I'm criticizing, but they're not Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. It's a little bit, you know, as far as the Ivies go, a little easier to get players in, I guess. They've always had a lot of talent. I mean, look back the last 25 years, they put players in the NHL consistently. Mm-hmm. So, but they always fell short of the NCAA, just short. I don't know how many times. You know, Bob Gaudet, who I loved, and his staff. I mean, the agony on his face every year when I would see him at the end of the year in Lake Placid or something like that when they lost the semifinal game and finished 17th in the pairwise. Just, it started to break your heart after a while, because he was the goalie for the last team that made the NCAAs back in 1980 and 81, I believe. Was it 80 and 81? I have to double check on that. Or 79 and 80.
79 and 80. Yeah, I get it open in front of me.
Where if you were one of the semifinalists or one of the finalists for the ECAC tournament, you made the NCAAs because there was 2 teams from each side of the country, and the ECAC was the only conference in the East. So if you made the finals, that's how you qualified. And I think they won it one year and the semis the other year, and that was it. That was the last time. So, and it was always broke my heart to see the poor guy devastated. And but now, a legit opportunity. Cashman's not an alum like Odette was, but I just always felt there's a school potential. I think you said, I've been there many times. Thompson Arena is a very nice arena.
I love it. And they're doing work to it, too. They just hung a scoreboard. That's really the only thing I think they're doing inside. I was talking to some of their staff. They're doing a bunch of work behind the scenes, which is where you should spend your money if you have it. Spend it on those development facilities for sure. And that's the big thing, too. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know the politics around the school. But just talking to some of their staffers up there, they were like, Bob Gaudette had to fight for everything with the school. He wanted to order sticks. He had to fight for it. I think it was even that way in Reed's first couple of years, too. They hired a new AD. I don't know if that was in 2022 or 2023. And a lot of people up there said, things, it's so different now where it feels like the administration is going to bat and supporting athletics, specifically hockey and a couple of other sports, whereas before it was a little more of a tug of war. That's something we've talked about a lot here as well. When teams hire new head coaches, it's not often you just hire a new coach and flip a switch and things get better. Ask Nate Lehman about the commitment Providence made when he went there, because he's talked about it before. That administrative piece is a huge component of all this, and it sounds like they're getting that now, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I feel like they've always had potential, if they could just get it all together, because there's no reason why they can't recruit the way some of the other schools do in the league and in the Ivies. Harvard's Harvard, but, in terms of recruiting, they should be able to keep up with Yale, for example, which won a national championship, and, Cornell, and so on and so forth. So, anyway, we'll see how that goes. They play Brown and Yale, and then they play Army, and then at New Hampshire, which is like an annual sort of grudge match thing. So that'll be a good test. And then Arizona State twice at the end of December. And so, I'm really looking forward to those. I would be, again, if they lose one of the games here coming up, it's not that big a deal. But I think it would be hilarious and fun if they were 12-0 going into the post-Christmas weekend with Arizona State.
Yep. Not to disparage the teams they have coming up, but you do look at the schedule and you're like, not sure where the loss is going to come from.
I know. Well, we'll get to Army in a second as we review the week, but let's check out what went on this past week in college hockey. Now that Dartmouth, check out our Team of the Week article on collegehockeynews.com. There were a couple of tournaments, and certainly a team that was in a similar boat, not quite as good, but close, and in the sense that they've had a good start and not quite been Team of the Week yet because their schedule hasn't necessarily been the greatest, but they go to the Friendship 4 tournament in Ireland, and Miami wins it, so certainly could have been Team of the Week themselves. But, again, their schedule, not the greatest, but, right now 2 wins at Lindenwood in overtime are looking pretty good, given how Lindenwood's playing.
Yeah.
Splitting with Arizona State. They lose 2 to Western. They split with St. Cloud. And then RIT, which had been playing well, they're kind of tailing off, I guess. And then Union, which had been playing pretty well, a recent Team of the Week there as well. They beat them in the championship game. So 2 goals by Mateo Giampa, who was a freshman, not a freshman, but a transfer. One of the transfers they brought in, he came from Canisius, and he's been tremendous for them. Just one of the guys who has been stepping it up. And as I like to say, for a young team or a team that's brand new, hasn't had a lot of success before, it's not the worst thing in the world if you play a relatively weaker schedule and build up wins, because it tends to boost your confidence while you're, giving the opportunity to teach them stuff and whatnot. Yep. So, I'm not necessarily against that. And they do have 2 freshmen who I think, again, the competition has not been at the highest level. It's going to step up soon. They're playing at Denver this weekend, so we're going to find out a lot more in a hurry. But, guys like Kosher Delic, who is sounds like Kosher Deli, by the way. Sorry, man. I apologize if you're listening out there and I'll make fun of your name, but point-per-game player right now. And Ilya Morozov from Russia, who is big 6'3" forward who's got 13 points in 14 games. So there's some players there, and a ton of freshmen on the roster. And, of course, the goalie there has played every minute of every game so far. Mateo Drobac, who did not really play last year, has played every minute. So there you go.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the next couple of weeks we'll learn a lot. 2 at Denver, then at home against Colorado College before the break. So those are 4 really tough games against 2 teams that look like right now they'll be right in the mix at the top of the NCHC. So we'll learn a lot about them over the next 2 weeks.
Absolutely. The other tournament was played at Lake Placid. Alaska, I think, won that tournament. It was a little bit nondescript up there. I love going there. It's an amazing place to go. Every hockey fan in America should always, it's like Mecca. Lake Placid is Mecca as far as I'm concerned. You should make the pilgrimage there at least once. I miss it. I miss going there every year. And, of course, the 2 not tournaments but big games played at NHL arenas this past weekend. Minnesota and Denver, and I was at that one at Ball Arena, home of the Avalanche here in Denver. And Minnesota's been playing better lately. We just talked about them last week with Pat Micheletti. And impressive win for them. I mean, Denver outshot Minnesota in that game 52-25, and we're all over them. But big game from Luca DePasquo, despite allowing 5 goals. It was a crazy game. I mean, it was 3-1 Minnesota after 2 periods. Denver scored. Minnesota scored back at 4-2. You thought, maybe that's the end of that. Then Denver gets 2 to tie it. Eric Polkamp, who had 10 shots on goal in the game, scored the tying goal. Just ridiculous what he's doing on defense. And then Minnesota gets a power play goal late, only to have Boston Buckberger, who was another one who's the two of the 2 best players in the team are basically the defensemen. And Buckberger ties it with 23 seconds left, but then Minnesota won it on their only shot of overtime. And, it was, despite getting heavily outshot like that, I mean, Minnesota did a lot of good things. Quentin Miller, he had a rare bad game, really, for Denver. Give credit to Minnesota. They took advantage of some one-on-one plays that were pretty nice. So Denver, they're going to have some blips in the road with their young team. Minnesota, young team, but they've had a little more injuries to deal with. So it was just an entertaining game, and I think Denver is not too broken up about it. They were happy to be playing at Ball Arena and getting that showcase. So that was one of them. The other one was at Madison Square Garden, Cornell's annual sojourn down there. Every other year it's against BU, and then the opposite year it's against whomever. And what did I say last week, or have I said? I mean, what Boston University the biggest dog meat defensively this year. They will play their best game defensively against Cornell. And lo and freaking behold, Yegorov looked like Hasek again all of a sudden. Cornell outshot them, and it was 23-12 to 2 periods. It ended up 29-17. And Yegorov kind of stood on his head, and BU wins it 2-1. And the goal that Cole Iserman scored to win it, it was 5 minutes into the third period, but it was the game winner, was probably the first bad goal that Alexis Cornwallier, the Cornell freshman goalie, allowed. It just, from a short angle through his legs, definitely want to have it back kind of thing, but he's been so tremendous. And it was just unfortunate that, that was the game BU decided they knew how to play defense. I mean, usually we don't see that till like March, but, good for BU. They needed that one, I think, for sure, because they're pretty far back there in the NPI right now.
It's crazy. Yeah, they're 27th 27th. They're like not even sniffing the tournament picture. A long way to go. But that's a couple of wins in a row, though, because they beat Cornell the week before. They found a way in that second game. It was an overtime game against Northeastern. But they are, I mean, for all their ups and downs, they are 4-2 over their last 6 games. So some of the 2 losses weren't great. They lost 3-2 to Northeastern. That was without Zaker in the lineup, and they got really outplayed by Quinnipiac in that 6-2 loss on the road the middle of November. But 4-2 in their last 6. It feels like they've turned a corner. Definitely felt like Yegorov turned a corner on Saturday, which is what they're going to need. I mean, remember, like they were kind of a mediocre team last year until he came in the middle of the season and took over and just was one of the best goalies in college hockey down the stretch. So they need him back to being that again.
Yeah, no doubt. Like I said, usually they figure out a way as the season goes on. We'll see if they dug themselves a little bit too much of a hole. But if they could play Cornell every game, that would be brings out the best in them for some reason. It's funny because it's supposed to be the other way around, and not that Cornell doesn't play well against them, but like Cornell has a lot of old school fans who still remember the old Cornell BU rivalry, which was pretty friggin' heated. But of course, BU has its own local rivalries, especially against Boston College, that are take much higher precedence these days. But when Cornell plays BU, it still brings up the old memories for Cornell people as much, so I think they get hyped up to play them. So, but for some reason, there you go. I don't know. I mean, back in the 90s when Jay Pandolfo was playing, Cornell BU was like nothing. They hadn't even played at that point. Mike Schaefer, when he came along later on, resurrected that. He wanted to do that, every year, and started to try to play them as much as possible. So, but when Hockey East broke off from the ECAC in 1984, I mean, that kind of ended that for a while. But in the early 70s, people may not know, but those were the 2 top teams in the East for a number of years. Like late 60s, early 70s, they went at it massively, let's just say. And I remember, never forget Tuke Cahoon seeing me wear a Cornell sweatshirt one time, and he was going to kick me out of the room. So, Tuke being a forward on the 72 and 73 championship teams at BU. So, all right. What else went on this past weekend? I mentioned a little bit about Army only because they upset UMass. But I remember last week you said that Greg Carvel had said we need UMass goalie Michael Robel to be a .940 save percentage goalie. Well, he came back, but definitely was not that against Army. So they lose 5-4. I don't know what's going on there because I didn't watch that game. I don't know beyond the fact that Robel he allowed 5 goals on 14 shots, and they pulled him.
That's not good.
Yeah, they pulled him after 2 periods, and then Jackson Irving made all 8 saves in the 3rd period. But Martin Baron's son, Jacob Baron, the goalie at Army, gets a huge win, and he made 34 saves. He's been basically the backup so far this year to J.J. Cataldo, but he may get some more time. We'll see.
Yeah, because Cataldo was great last year, too.
Yeah.
He was really good last year, and he's been okay this year. His numbers have dipped a little bit from where they were a year ago. But no, I only saw highlights. I didn't see the whole game, but again, just basing it off some of the numbers, Army puts 5 on the board on a night where their expected goals was 1.5. So that pretty much sums it up right there.
I mean, it's sorry to laugh, but yeah, Robel is expected to be a big time goalie, and I mean he has been in the past, but I'm not sure what whether he's still nursing the injury or whatnot, but not great for him right there. So. Hopefully you can get
could just be rust too. I mean, he hadn't seen action in a while, but that's those was not a great first night back.
Yeah. A couple of things to point out here before we take a break and get to some thoughts from Dartmouth coach Reed Cashman. Check out the NPI in all its glory right now. I got all the kinks worked out. I think there was a couple of kinks that I worked out this week. And, right now, Dartmouth, of course, still won. Michigan, Wisconsin, Duluth. I mean, if you look at the old pairwise formula compared to the MPI, it's the same exact teams would make the tournament right now. So
I didn't catch that. That's funny, though.
Yeah, so much for all the hand-wringing. But Lindenwood and LIU split. So Lindenwood is right now at 19. St. Thomas moved up to 18. They had a shootout win and a regular win this past weekend. So keep an eye on them at 18. Bowling Green, another one, up to 16. So these are, we don't talk a lot about the CCHA games from week to week, but I want to point them out because they're getting overlooked a little bit. You see Minnesota State is sitting at 6, and Bowling Green and St. Thomas in the top 20. So Pat Micheletti mentioned this last week on our show about watch out for some of these CCHA teams. So there you go. And Northeastern up to 8, by the way, with Sergetson still in there for Zaker, who's hurt, and playing phenomenally, just like nothing changed.
Yeah. Yep. And they're the only Hockey East team that's in and really even close.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the OT loss to BU, but then they beat Brown the next night 4-1. And Sergetson is at 936 save percentage. Zaker's at 943. So, every bit as decent a goalie there. We talked about him last week. As a poor guy, I wouldn't blame him if he gets a little frustrated sitting out when Zaker's there the whole time. Last year he didn't get to play a lot either. But let's put it this way: if he doesn't get more time this year, he's going to make a great number one goalie somewhere else next year. Unless Zaker leaves and he manages to. I mean, that is possible too. Zaker's a junior.
Sure.
I don't know the kid. I mean, I would love to see guys always stay and stick it out and then thrive for their own team the next year, but that doesn't always happen, as we know. And he is a native of Minnesota. So, all right, let's take a break. We'll talk to Reed Cashman. We'll come back on the other side.
Class, today we're talking men's ice hockey. Open your textbooks. Join thousands of other screaming fans for an in-person experience you have to see to believe. It's the NCAA Men's Frozen 4, April 9th and 11th in Las Vegas. Attendance is encouraged. Passion is mandatory. Buy your seats today at ncaa.com/mfrozen4.
How many teams are in the Men's Frozen 4?
Please leave.
All right, welcome back to the College Hockey News Insiders podcast. We are going to hear now from Dartmouth head coach Reed Cashman, his comments here as he was talking to Josh Sagan, our ECAC writer. And that was immediately following the game against Merrimack this past Saturday.
Yeah, really, really hard-fought battle. Merrimack obviously played it well, put us in the tough spots. Dartmouth alum, Scott Bork, got a lot of respect for him and what he does for his program. And at the end of it, I think we're going to have to win games different ways. They didn't play last night. We did. Not sure our legs were the best, but to find a way to win a 1-0 game will pay dividends in the future, I hope.
Yeah, I mean, how big is that? I mean, obviously, I think your goaltender played well too. He definitely played very well, but so did the other guy. How were you guys in the trenches, kind of playing a game like this? Because that's a little different than you guys have played all year.
Yeah, I mean, we've been fortunate to score this year, and so to have to learn. I mean, we did have the 2-1 game versus Cornell. Yeah, but and we didn't change how we played, but it just didn't connect the way we like it to connect. And you got to find a way to be on top of pucks and to battle through it, and then to have a game like this, you need your goalie to play superb, and Emmett was excellent today.
Yeah, talk about your goalies. I mean, obviously, you said at the beginning of the year you'd like to find one guy. Is that still the plan, or do you think you can ride like what's going on here? Both are playing really well.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy to have two guys right now. I think we're really excited about our depth at all three positions, and goaltending is no different. Roan and Emmett are great teammates. They push each other. They both deserve the opportunities they're getting. They're both making the most of it, and just knowing that we have depth at that position there's so much confidence in both guys.
How about the youth? I mean, obviously you're a young team. I mean, on paper, I mean, you got some guys, Hayden, Hank, those guys, they've kind of stepped into new roles and they're kind of flourishing in them for you, huh?
Yeah, it's funny. You look at Hayden, Hank, and even Jack Silverberg, and you think, well, those are our veterans who are playing 20 minutes a night, and they're sophomores, right? We got 5 first-year guys on a power play unit. We got guys that are playing important minutes. We have great leadership. They've helped these guys along, and what we've brought in is really competitive, high hockey IQ kids that are taking advantage of their roles. And so I got no problem putting a freshman or sophomore on the ice, which we kind of have to in some cases, and they're making the most of it.
And what about your freshman group? Obviously, you got like Nathan Moore, and it's come out right. And guys like him. What has that group added to you guys? You guys kind of talked about it, but
yeah, super competitive.
Yeah,
super high hockey IQ. Have bought in to everything we're trying to do here, and whether it's Brock Cummings on the PK or Clarkey, like we can go through our list of first year guys that are playing important minutes that replaced Sean Chisholm or Townley, and they're flourishing and they're getting better, and I'm really excited about where we're going to end this season because those guys will keep getting better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you could just kind of mention it, but were you expecting the quick out here from some of these guys, or do you think it would be kind of more of a little bit of a process?
I don't think you know until you get on campus what you got. We know we had great returning leadership. We knew some of the guys coming back, but until a kid gets on your campus and starts practicing and we start using our terminology, you're not sure how they're going to fit in. I'll tell you, Jason Tapp, who runs our recruiting amongst other things, has brought in a phenomenal class in Byron Poole and Brian Fay. Those 3 guys worked their butts off to bring the right kind of kids that are trying to play to our culture and our identity.
And does the late start to the season or more preseason kind of help those first years get acclimated, you think?
I think we want to play as soon as we can. I think we want to play those games. And we start school a little bit later too, right? So, I don't know if that helps.
So, what's been the biggest thing? Obviously, 8-0. I mean, it's as good of a win streak as any program's had in ECAC in a while to start the year. I mean, what's gone particularly well, and what needs to continue to go well for that kind of to continue?
I think it just feels like each night somebody has stepped up, or some group has stepped up. So like tonight, our power play was not very good. Yeah. We have to find a way to have a 2-minute 5-on-3 to score. We just do. Yeah. Well, our goalie bails us out. Even I don't think we loved our PK tonight. Yeah. But Emmett bails us out. So tonight it was the goalie. Other nights it's been our forward group. Other nights it's been Nathan Moore. So we've just gotten these contributions. And then we have total belief in our room, and our guys love each other. Like they really love each other. And between that competitiveness, that buy-in, and that love, I think that's why we're coming out in some of these games.
Coach, anything else to add?
Yeah, go Big Green.
Get hurt in a game? We tough it out. Feel exhausted? We push on. Feeling down? We pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. But there are times when bootstraps aren't enough. When stress gets to us and we need to talk to someone about what we're really going through. So we're going to reach out, because sometimes mental health is not a one-person job. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
All right, welcome back to the College Hockey News Insiders podcast. Keeping an eye on the Islanders tonight, as I always do, because, they're my team. What can I tell you? But they went on a road trip, and they won 6 out of – now, they had a mediocre to not great start of the season. They go on this road – they weren't expected to be that good this year. But Matthew Schaefer's been incredible on D, and they've gotten a little boost out of that. And they go on this road trip and win 6 out of 7, and the only game they lost was to the Avalanche. I mean, which is no shame there on the road. And it was a 2-1 game, so it was actually a really good game. And they come home, and they go 1-3-1. They got an 8-game homestand after 7 games on the road. They 1-3-1, and the only win was a shootout. So it's been pathetic. They haven't been able to score. And then Kyle Palmieri just tore his ACL, and he's out for 4 months, 6 months, whatever it is. And so I mean, but now they're leading Tampa after 2 tonight, so we'll see if they can hold on to that one. But 1-0, of course. It's kind of, oh man, I thought they were able to. I thought their scoring doldrums are over. They were great on the road, man. Oh, anyway, let's get to our mailbag listener questions as we head into our last segment here. A couple of questions thrown out at us. First of all, with the snarky question, which has a kernel of something we can talk about, is will Northern Michigan win a game this year? That's the first question. But
they're not the only ones either.
Yeah, I was going to say Mercyhurst was the other one. Mercyhurst finally got a non-loss, right? They tied, lost in a shootout. So
they tied Robert Morris.
Right, they're 0-14-1, and I don't take pleasure in I'm not one of these people who laughs at other people's pain here. So I'm taking no pleasure in discussing this. I feel bad for Rick Gawkin, who's such a great guy. We've had him on many times, and he's last season. And, it's been a struggle for them the last few years, and good time to get out, but maybe 1 year too late because going through it this year at 0-14-1. So they're another one. And then Northern Michigan doesn't even have a tie, but they do have an overtime loss. So, I mean, but again, they're in a crazy situation, right, where we knew they were going to be rebuilding after they were gutted last year, and Dave Shayak comes in. And, last year was a struggle. We thought maybe a little bit of improvement this year, but weren't expecting the world. So, you got to give these programs a little grace there, I suppose.
Yeah, especially, challenges for two different reasons. Like Mercyhurst is dealing with being one of the smallest schools. Are they the smallest school in Division I hockey? They might be.
What is their enrollment? I mean, Colorado College and St. Lawrence are pretty small too, like 2,000. So
yeah, I think they're probably in that range.
Merrimack's small too, right?
Oh, they're bigger now. They've been small for a while. I think they're up to like 4,000 or 5,000 now. But no, Mercyhurst is also going through a transition where they're moving their entire department to Division I, so you don't know, from a resource standpoint, or things being diverted in other directions. Obviously, when you go to Division I, even if it's at the NEC level, you got to spend a little more on basketball than you were spending as a Division II school, so money goes there. So you wonder if that's happening. And then, like you said, with Northern, they were gutted late in the off season 2 summers ago, and that could be a difficult thing to battle back from. But so both I think are struggling for different reasons. But yeah, I agree with you. Obviously, you hope that they get those things turned around and figured out pretty quickly. Especially no offense to Northern, but especially at Mercyhurst, because I want Rick Gawkin to be able to go with his head up, just because I think he's one of the good guys.
He should anyway, but it's hard.
100%. Yeah.
I will say this about Northern, just to answer the question, I guess. I do think they will win a game. This is not earth-shattering news, but if you look at their strength of schedule, and I'm going by the Cratch, the CHN Power ratings, Mercyhurst's strength of schedule is 56th. Northern Michigan's is 19th. You look at their schedule. They've played 2 games at UMass, 2 games at Ohio State, home for Colorado College, 2 at home against Michigan State, and then at Augustana, at Michigan Tech, and at Bemidji, all of whom are having decent years in the CCHA. So, and then home for Minnesota State. Those are probably the top 4 teams in the league. So, and then they got Bowling Green this weekend. So it's, and then St. Thomas. Actually, I just reeled off 6 teams in the league out of 9 who are actually playing pretty well. It's only like Lake Superior and Ferris who are not having as strong a year, but the CCHA is kind of tough, and their non-league schedule was really tough. So I guess, it might be hard to get a win, but by the same token, they are getting toughened up with this, and it's somewhere along the way they're going to win a couple games, I'd have to think.
Yeah, I would think so, and I would say the same for Mercyhurst too. They've only got the 1 game this weekend, and then they're off until the beginning of January, and it's pretty much only league play after that for them. They start with a non-conference series in North Dakota. That's not going to be very easy, but then after that, they're all league games. So I would think that they're with a bunch at home in January too. So I'd hope that they'd be able to get a couple in there at some point, but I'd be I mean, it is kind of a, like you said, a little bit of a sarcastic question, but I'd be shocked if a team went winless over the course of an entire season.
Yeah, and they're one of their two goalies, Oliver Ayoung Ashton, is actually putting up a .932 save percentage. I mean, he was one of the top goalies in the BCHL. Coming in, he was a freshman from British Columbia, so there's some hope there. They obviously have a lot of trouble scoring goals. Their top goal scorer is 5, but with no assists, and then falls off from there. So, I mean, listen, I never wish badly on anybody, and I think they'll get a couple here and there. I mean, that's at some point to hang their hat on, but you have to think at least there's hope going forward. There's no reason why they can't get themselves back to a level that the other higher teams in the CCHA are. They have the tradition and whatnot. They just need some more time. So,
and like you would expect with a new coach specifically at Northern, I mean, look at their roster.
Yeah,
they've got like 10 or 11 freshmen, like 8 or 9 sophomores.
Yeah,
they're almost entirely freshmen and sophomores. There's only 4 seniors in the team.
Yeah, and all those are transfers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
so they haven't been there. You look at their entire roster. I mean, all the juniors and seniors are transfers except for one, and so they've completely rebuilt their roster in the last 2 years. All right. Well, the other the other question we have is from Mav Puck, who's a loyal listener. We appreciate it. 1/3 of the way through the season, who are the biggest winners and losers of the major junior eligibility change? I don't know if there's any losers. I mean, I think in the sense...
Some CHL teams, maybe?
Yeah, right. That's true. He didn't specify that it had to be NCAA teams we were talking about. The biggest losers of that are the major junior leagues for sure. I think they'll adapt eventually.
So do I.
You know what I mean? I could just see that them changing their approach, and they probably already are. Wheels in motion there, but I think the winners are pretty much everybody in college hockey. There are teams like Minnesota, for example, has not dipped into that yet, but they probably will. So teams have dipped in with varying degrees, but as far as I don't like all the craziness that has been taking place, but on the ice and what it's done for that and expanding the pool, I mean, it's hard to argue with the quality.
100%. Yeah, that's why it's hard to say that they'd be considered a loser in this because they're also able to take advantage of it. But if there is a loser, I think it's probably those teams that traditionally got the best players. Right. The teams that traditionally got the best players from the National Development Program and the top players in the USHL. And look, they're still going to get the best CHL players too. But I think overall, we've talked about before, those teams that are middle of the pack that are generally 20 to 35 in the pairwise or NPI, those teams are all deeper now. Their floor is higher, which is why you've seen some of these results early in the year, I think, because that's why an LIU can go in and beat a Minnesota. And, it's not that surprising, or at least not as much as it would have been 3 or 4 years ago, because the floor for those teams is higher than it was before. So if there's a loser, I guess you could say it's the Blue Bloods, but it's hard to call them a loser because they're also taking advantage of it and get the best players.
Well, we're definitely not crying for them, but you bring up a good point about the development program players going to there, because I think we talked about this way back in the summer about how you may see a lot of those guys go major junior more so than before, right? So maybe where Michigan, BC were just filled with national program players, some of those guys that would have gone there are not going there anymore. Or maybe. I mean, I think that's happening to some extent already. So that pipeline may be a little bit broken up. But again, they'll just get somebody else from major junior, as they have with Porter Martone and stuff. So,
there's also been all these rumors that will the USHL and the CHL merge, or there's been all these things that, flood social media constantly. And it's, I don't know if in 10 years we don't end up in a situation that looks like that. And then, is there even a national development program anymore at that point? Is it needed? right?
Yeah.
You could argue that it's really not needed anymore because those players can go play in the CHL and then still go to college. You could make that argument that you don't have to take the best Americans and put them all together in one program.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you need it or not. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if you. On one sense, you don't, but on the other, I mean, it has helped the World Juniors because it's like a cohesive team. These guys all know each other and have played together.
Yeah,
but is that a reason? I mean, I think it is one of the reasons why they want to keep it together. But I don't think it. Let's put it this way: I don't think their development of those players will get hurt individually. As a team able to win international championships, it would take a hit, right?
Yes.
But not, I don't think it would hurt their individual development if they weren't there and they were somewhere else, I guess is my point.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, no, I agree.
So one thing I was actually pondering as I was lying awake at night recently for no other reason, but having nothing to do with this, but is it possible, and what if 5-10 years from now the CHL makes itself older? What if they just change their rules and say it's going to now be 22? And then what's stopping them from doing that? I mean, there's no law in Canada that says they have to be, junior hockey has to end at 20. So I was wondering about that.
That's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know if that's an IIHF thing. I have no idea.
Well, that is possible. But, still you could just have, the World Juniors, you would still just have to be below 20 to be eligible. I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question.
The other thing, too, is the BCHL a couple years ago left Hockey Canada because they didn't want to be regulated by the rules anymore. So, they could just do that, too.
Right. But the BCHL becomes the college hockey of Canada.
They're just going to say we're an autonomous league and we're not affiliated with anybody.
Yeah, and just have 18 to 22-year-olds like the NCAA or higher.
You could. I guess you could. Yeah.
I don't know. I was just thinking, what will some of these leagues do to adapt? Because it's going to be one way or the other. They're either going to become younger and just sort of, tout themselves as being the path for college hockey the same way the USHL has. But that just seems hard from an ego standpoint for people in Canada to say that.
Well, that seems to be the issue that they're having right now.
Yeah. I would imagine it's hard to wrap your head around that. But as we have a story on College Hockey News this week, it was just posted a couple of days ago talking to all these ex-major junior players about this, and they all say, this has been a great path, and they've exactly the reason why they came. Again, I'm not naive. I don't think they're all bucking for their degree. That may be like a bonus for them if they take a few classes and stuff. But as far as a hockey standpoint, it's helped them in terms of playing against bigger players, and they don't mind the fewer games thing, which has always been the canard against the NCAA. So,
and I think it's taking some time for people that are in the CHL or affiliated with the CHL to understand that. It was funny the other day. I was putting something on Twitter about the World Junior team, the preliminary camp roster that they announced, and I wrote something about Chase Reed, who's playing. I think he's with the Sioux Greyhounds, and he is committed to Michigan State. And I said, I think he'll be an impact freshman in college hockey next year. And there was an account that covers the Greyhounds who were like, next year. He's committed for 2027. Right. And I didn't feel like arguing, so I just was like, okay, yep, that's great. Sorry. But look, the reality is, if Michigan State wants him next year, he's going to Michigan State. Yeah, his agent is going to make sure he goes to Michigan State. Whoever drafts him this summer is going to make sure that he goes to Michigan State. There's no need, if he's a top 10 pick, which he's going to be, there's no need to go back to the OHL. So that's taking it's taking a little bit, I think, for some people up there to understand. It's great. Yep, he said he's committed for 2027. Awesome.
Yep.
If Michigan State wants him next year, he's going to Michigan State. Sorry to tell you.
All right, let's look ahead to the week here before we get out of here. And the schedule is relatively full this week compared to the rest of December, when it gets pretty light, as it does every year. So the CCHA is pretty much a full slate. And Minnesota State hosting Ferris. The NCHC has 6 teams in action with Denver, we mentioned. Duluth at Western Michigan is the big one to keep an eye on there. It looks like we had a story up about Una Väisänen, the defenseman for Western Michigan, being hurt for the long term. Apparently this morning, Pat Ferschweiler, coach at Western, said he's done for the year, so that's unfortunate. Key defenseman for them.
He's been playing well, too.
Yeah, I mean, he was really, really pivotal down the stretch last year for them defensively. So unfortunate for them, but these things obviously do happen. So that's the NCHC. And, in the Big Ten, I know what it was. Wisconsin is going to Notre Dame. They had the week off last week after being Team of the Week. And Luke Osborne, who was one of the players on the World Junior Preliminary roster, defenseman for Wisconsin, has been out with mono. Apparently is good to go again. So there you go. That's some of the injury news. So Michigan at Michigan State, of course, going to be the highlight, I guess, of the weekend. It usually is when those two get together. But, of course, both being essentially top 5 teams right now is just going to up the ante even more. And love them or hate them, those two are loaded, and
they are.
Love or hate how it all has come about the last few years. That's it's entertaining hockey on the ice. They're also, I believe, the 2 most penalized teams in the country, or at least 2 of the top 5, which I guess
make it fun.
I guess doesn't surprise me. Now you're going to put them together. Oh boy, okay. So if just for that alone, check it out. See what kind of craziness happens there. Hockey East has a fairly full slate. ECAC as well. Again, Dartmouth in action again. Cornell at Clarkson and St. Lawrence as well. You did notice that Cornell losing dropped them from 4 to 12 in the MPI, and Princeton got swept by Bowling Green. And remember, they were up there, and now all of a sudden they're 32. So Harvard lost 2 to Michigan. 1 was in overtime, and they're down to 15. So it very quickly went from 4 ECAC teams in the top 15 to Cornell at 12 and Harvard at 15. That's it. Oh, and Dartmouth, of course. But we did say how for them it was kind of volatile, obviously, since they play fewer games. For everyone else, it's getting stable fairly quickly. Oh, so you got you can talk about the Hockey East slate, since I left that up to you here, so you can talk about what's up.
I mean, honestly, it's a full slate of games. It feels like, and it feels like they're all coin tosses, because that's pretty much what the league's been so far this year. BU, we'll see if they can keep it going against Vermont. That's at BU. New Hampshire and Maine, it's always a big rivalry weekend. That's up in Orono. Merrimack and UConn have a home and home. BC, UMass, Lowell have a home and home. And then a Saturday-Sunday series, UMass and Northeastern. That's a Saturday-Sunday. And then we won't be recording. Actually, we will probably while this game is happening. Yeah. Providence and Brown Mayor's Cup is next Tuesday.
That's right, the annual Mayor's Cup. Providence coming off a split with Colorado College on the road. I actually thought that was a good job for both teams. I watched a lot of that series. It was pretty good there, so there you go. And, UMass needs to get things figured out. Maybe they can against Northeastern, which doesn't score a lot of goals typically, but they do not allow many either. So, all right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this week. I appreciate everyone stopping in. We'll definitely have shows. I'm hoping to, with the not as many games over the next few weeks, just hoping to line up some key figures in college hockey and hockey in general in North America. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully get those interviews lined up for the next few weeks, so we'll definitely have something always interesting to talk about, as there always is. Until then, so long.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of the College Hockey News Insiders Podcast. To submit your listener questions, please send them to @CHN News on X. And for the best college hockey content around, including features, the CHN Team of the Week, stats, rankings, and so much more, visit us at collegehockeynews.com. Until next time, we hope you enjoy all of this week's great on-ice action, and we'll be back to break it down on our next edition. For Adam Woden and Mike McMahon, this has been the College Hockey News Insiders Podcast.